I'm Detective Brown with the Houston Police Department, Homicide Division. This is my partner, Mark Condon. We're here to disseminate some of the information we've received on the shooting case, the road rage case from the Astros game the other night. On July 6th, approximately 2300 or 11 p.m., an incident occurred on Chartres Street leading to I-10. The suspect vehicle you see here, which we think is going to be a 2010 to 2014 Buick LaCrosse, white in color, sunroof, paper tags, no front plates. Chased our complainant's vehicle down I-10, exiting Wayside, going underneath the freeway, and that's when the shooting occurred. We know from video that we've received that both vehicles went back westbound on I-10, the complainant with the suspect following. The description we have from today is going to be a black male or a light or dark-skinned Hispanic, 5'8" to 5'10", 20s to early 30s, muscular build, thin. We're asking the citizens of Houston, citizens of Harris County, if they know anyone that matches this description or the vehicle, to please contact the Homicide Division or Crime Stoppers, 713-222-TIPS, and help us out with this case. Anything more?
The rims are a little distinctive. I'm Detective Condon, Houston Homicide. Couple more things about the car. The rims are a little distinctive. They have 7 holes. We found some cars that have 9, but this one has 7. And the complainant's father, Mr. Castro, said that the front headlights were yellowish, had a yellow tint to them.
Any questions before we ask Mr. Castro to come up?
Do you think this guy also attended the baseball game?
We have him on video coming in off 59, heading 59 North, exiting Polk.
So he was not part
He was not
of this
attending the
buildup
game.
traffic?
No. He entered traffic and met Mr. Castro as they were coming out of the game.
We're coming off a holiday weekend. That's a busy intersection.
Very busy.
Is there a chance he doesn't even live in Houston?
Possibility, also with the paper tags, but we're hoping the tips kind of lead us in the direction around Houston or Harris County. So.
Can you walk through the series of events again where the shooting happened? Because originally it was said to be on McCarty.
Right. Yesterday we're doing a mass canvass for surveillance. As I said, the suspect comes off 59 North, exiting Polk, mingles in the traffic when Mr. Castro is leaving the game. He's already driving aggressively. You can see him weaving in and out of traffic. The suspect vehicle and Mr. Castro meet somewhere on Chartres, possibly near Congress or Preston. The suspect becomes angry. You can see him leave his vehicle, open the door, start yelling at Mr. Castro. He follows him up onto I-10, and it's heading I-10 east. They exit Wayside, go up under the freeway, and that's where the shooting occurs.
So you have all of it on camera?
We don't have the shooting on camera. We're trying to backtrack the vehicles. We have them up to the point where the shooting happens on the service road.
And at one point he gets out of the car?
That's on Chartres. He opens his door. You can see the door open. You can't see him physically get out of the car, but you can see the door open. Yeah.
This story has just like rattled Houston. Everyone's wondering what they would have done in that situation. Watching this play out, is there anything the Castro family could have done differently?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that this time. Yeah.
I'm sorry, just for my clarification. So the shooting happened under I-10 at Wayside.
Yes.
And then the suspect continued to follow the Castro family.
Exactly.
When did he divert away?
We don't have that video. We don't have the point to where they diverted or anything past that. We know that they got on at I-10 at that entrance ramp, and that's where we lost them. Yeah.
Was anyone else in the car?
Yeah.
We can't tell definitively. From the video we have, it looks like one single male.
And just to be clear, the suspect did not know the Castro family at all?
No.
And by the time the shooting, well, you can't see the shooting, but where you see it in the video, I'm imagining again, the crowd getting out of the game. It's bumper to bumper, usually
Yes.
for quite a distance. And so from what can you gather so far in this investigation, how he was able to get out? Is there perhaps more people who might have seen this car?
Perhaps that's why we're putting out this information, to see if anyone has seen anything. Anything would help at this point. The traffic was moving so slow, anyone could have seen anything. People nowadays have cameras on their cars, anything like that. We're asking for anything to come in.
Any other questions?
So just to be clear, he was coming towards the freeway, the suspect.
See, he exited 59 at Polk. He ran into the traffic at Chartres as the game was letting out. You can see him driving aggressively, trying to get around traffic. He's actually swerving around people in the intersections. And just as he continues down Chartres, him and the Castro family sort of meet together right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
But there was no stopping the both vehicles, nothing.
No, nothing like that. The traffic kept moving. And whatever incident occurred, the suspect opens his door, starts yelling, closes the door, and from that point on, he follows Mr. Castro.
What's your advice to people, because this has happened before, this has happened before, and road rage incidents are going up around the country, but what do you have to say to people that?
I'm not going to give any advice to people right now on that. I'm just here to highlight the information that we have here on this case. Okay?
Last question from the detective.
You guys have a lot of pieces of this. You have a description of the suspect, you have shots to be able to tell, you know, the back of the car. How frustrating is it to just, if they had a license plate, you have so much more information.
That would definitely help the case, but we know that someone in the city, someone in the county knows this person. They can link this person to this vehicle, and that's why we're asking for anyone who knows this to call in with us.
And just really quickly on the vehicle, at what point would you consider releasing some video of it? Just because it seems to be these rims might help identify, and you don't sort of capture that very well in the still.
We can release that video, I think, as soon as possible, as coming off
We're
15th.
extremely busy right now.
Yeah.
So as soon as we can, we
Yeah.
will.
Tips are pouring in already on this.
It may
Yeah.
not be today.
Yeah, it may not be.
Oh,
today.
tips are already pouring in on
The
this.
tips are pouring in, but with the information, the more descriptive information on the vehicle, paper tag, the rims, we're hoping to kind of narrow those tips down.
And this vehicle description so far doesn't match the getaway vehicle for any other crime.
I can't answer it at that time.
Thank you.
Do you feel like you've exhausted your search for surveillance video, or are you still actually looking for other options?
We're still constantly looking for surveillance, yeah. And if any tips come in that could lead us to more, we'll check that out as well. Yeah.
Okay, Mr.
Detective, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Castro, if you can give us your name and spelling of your name, please.
Good morning. My name is Paul Castro, Paulcastro. I'm the father of David Castro.
Any questions?
First of all, sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Sorry. What is right now, what is your main focus? Obviously, the briefing process, but you want this guy to be caught.
Yes, as a father, and I still consider David with us, so a father of three, a person who behaved the way that he did is a threat to all of Houston, all of Texas. And this person is probably not afraid to use violence again, and this person needs to be taken off the street.
I ask, sir, again, condolences, how you're feeling, and I would imagine that seems like such a loaded question, but you're grappling with the loss of your son, and on social media today, you're calling on Houston for acts of kindness and for people to forgive. I would imagine you're grappling with quite a lot right now.
Yes. So first of all, I'm here because of my family, and I'm here because of my love of the city of Houston. It would be much easier for me not to be here right now, but as a lifelong educator, I've served the Houston community for over 26 years in the classroom as an administrator. I've had the opportunity to meet many families across the city, and they've been showing me and our family their love and condolences, and I appreciate that. I'm deeply, deeply thankful for all the outreach, and I used a metaphor of pebbles on this side and the boulder of grief on this side, and each one of those pebbles is added just helps us a little bit. My other children, Dave's mom, send our thanks to the community for that. How do we feel? I mean, it's obvious. People always say you'll never know what it's like to lose a child, and every single parent, I don't care if you're 70 years old or if your child is 70 years old, you don't bury a child. It's a nightmare. That is not something that anybody who has a child can imagine. And I've always thought that. I've gone to children's funerals as a principal, and I remember feeling the pain of those losses and hugging parents as they buried their child and just wishing to God that I would be spared that, and I wasn't. So you can't imagine, I'll just tell you that. And at the same time, my son David was a light in a world that is sometimes dark, and he lived a life of giving, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let someone steal that. I'm not going to behave in a way that would make him embarrassed or ashamed, and so I'm doing this not for me. My natural instinct is to feel very differently. My son is the reason that I'm putting out the messages that I am, and I'm asking for random acts of kindness on behalf of David, and whatever that looks like, because I think if the world were better, maybe this man who was obviously angry at something, maybe he would not have made that decision, or someone else who has a weapon available in that moment of rage that's 10 seconds long make a decision that they can't take back and that affects another family, a community, in an irreparable way like this one did.
And even in your son's death, you had mentioned yesterday he's still changing and saving lives. You had mentioned that you'd be donating his organs.
Yes, so we received a call from Life Gift today, and they're evaluating his organs. They said, as a healthy 17-year-old male who hadn't smoked or drank, to my knowledge at least, that he's a good, healthy candidate for donation, and we're hoping that his last, physical gift is going to be one where other families who are suffering in some way, shape, or form will find solace.
Señor Castro, ¿habla español?
Un poquito, puedo entender casi todo, pero no hablar un poquito. Lo siento.
Can you say a little bit about what you just said?
Sí, mi hijo David es una persona muy guapo, muy generoso. Generoso. Y cada día él vi como un hombre que quería hacer un mundo más bueno. Y por eso yo necesito vivir en una manera similar como mi hijo. Y lo siento que él no está aquí con nosotros, porque todos ustedes podían amar a él como a mí. You tricked me. You made me talk Spanish, and I couldn't keep control of my tears.
Señor, lo único que le quiero preguntar es esto. Usted pide un acto de generosidad.
Sí.
Cualquier cosa que pueda uno hacer por el otro, que lo haga. ¿Eso
Es-
es lo que quiere usted?
Puede ser algo tan pequeño como una sonrisa a alguien en una línea en el store. Es posible hacer, si uno no está hablando con su madre, su padre, su hermano, él puede llamar a él y nomás decir, hola, ¿qué tal? Y algo tan pequeño es una cosa que David también hizo.
Can you tell me a little more about David? He must have been headed into his senior year.
Yep. David got his scores back from the PSAT. He was qualified to be a National Merit Scholar, so he would have probably gotten a full ride. He wanted to go to Texas A&M or Purdue University and study chemical engineering. His hope and dream. He was really involved in politics. He would be on Twitter until it was too much for him, but he was involved, politically. He was very interested. He didn't identify with either party. He was a person who thought that the parties themselves weren't doing what needed to happen, but the people could. And so he was very intrigued and interested in public policy as well as our world. And he was worried about global warming. He was worried about the environment. He was worried about gun violence. And he wanted to do something with his life that would make the world better. So yeah, I went home for the first time yesterday, and I saw my notes. We had a meeting with the college counselor, and she was going over options that she thought were available for him. So seeing that today, again, as I went to go grab a cup of coffee, and knowing that like all those college letters are going to be coming, it's too much to bear, honestly. But my son David, the reason I'm asking for acts of kindness, and here, like I've had some parents reach out to me and they said, like these little vignettes, right? He was a kid who, if he saw some kid sitting by himself at lunch, he'd go sit with him. He was a huge band guy. He loved drums. He loved percussion. He was always focused on his little group, and he knew that was a safe place for like the misfit toys, right? So he was going to be a section leader, and it meant so much. Mr. S had his band director had just left to go to another job, and he was heartbroken, but he realized I have to step up, because if he's gone, I got to help the percussion teacher who's just out of college. I have to be that person, and he decided he was going to step up and lead. And so when I say that there's a David-shaped hole in the world right now that other people are going to have to fill up, his friends, his family, me, my job, he was a better person than I am, because I have anger, I have issues. He didn't. He was a person who, of all the people in the entire world, did not deserve this. And that's why I'm asking for people. If you're sitting across from the guy who is the killer, and you think, I could think he did that. Like that sounds like the person that he killed did not deserve this. There's so many times where people are like, oh, and what's happening right now, and I'm afraid, like I keep hearing, like, oh, I heard you exchange hand gestures. So let's just imagine that for a second. If I exchange hand gestures with you, does that require you to execute the person sitting next to me, my child? Like, is there any world that we live in where an exchange of hand gestures excuses the execution of another human being? And if the answer to that question is no, then I don't care what your relationship is to that person. That person is dangerous to the community and needs to be arrested. And as a matter of fact, because I want to get this straight, the hand gesture I exchanged, which I originally reported to police and was reported from that conversation, was when all these lanes were merging, I'd already let one person from his lane in. I'd let two people from the left in. And I was thinking, there's all these people behind me who are like, come on, let's go. And I was like, I gotta go. So I moved forward, and this guy, he was so close to me, he was like almost chipping the paint on my truck. And I kept moving forward. He screams up, and that's when he leaned out. And all I said is, I've already let 3 people in. That's my hand gesture. So that hand gesture got my son executed. And then that's not fair. And I'm asking for the city of Houston, if you think that your dash cam might have caught an image of that vehicle, if you think that the person that you hang out with sometime, but you're like, man, that guy's crazy, I can't hang out with him. That guy killed my son, and I'm asking for your help in bringing him to justice. And I'm not angry at him. I'm angry at what he did. I don't know who he is. I don't know enough to have, but I know he killed my son. And I'm not looking for blood justice. I'm looking for justice. And I'm asking the city of Houston to come together and to identify this. But if you can't do that, I'm asking for a random act of kindness in service of my son's memory, because everyone's reaching out. What can I do? Thoughts and prayers. Yes, I'm asking for thoughts and prayers. I'm asking for action. As a man of faith, I'm a believer in acts as much as faith. And the act I'm asking you to do is to love your neighbor. And for that, if you do that, then you're honoring my son. And if you share that with me on social media, I'll respond, because I appreciate that. That's the thing that I'm asking for. And I just want to say I thank the city of Houston. I cannot thank enough Detective Brown, Detective Condon, for doing the work on behalf of HPD. It was misreported. The HPD had misreported something. I'm the person who did that. I put that on social media, and I subtweeted the HPD tweet. They did not screw that up. I screwed that up because when I found out they weren't operating on my son because the damage was so extensive from that damn bullet that they put in his head, I said, my son is dead. This is now a homicide. And that's why it was reported. That had nothing to do with HPD. HPD's been nothing but professional. I'm so thankful they're working around the clock and they're turning over every rock.
Mr. Castro, thank you very much.
Thank you. which I put on social media for the whole media. Any photo that you see of my son on social media, I'm hereby granting rights for you to use those.
Can you say it right there for us, please?
Yeah.
Can you
So
also give me his Twitter handle?
his, I don't think. Oh, his. What was his? I don't know. I'll have to find it out. He was kind of weird, so I'm not sure if he wants everything out there. I hereby grant all media services the opportunity to use any photograph that I publish that is of my son or family. I would ask that you blur out images of his siblings if you use them, just because they're minors and I'm not granting that consent. But you have full rights to use any image that I've posted of Dave on social media.
Really quick, I would be remiss because you helped with this police sketch when the face was completed and you, I mean, like, what was that process like if you could sum up working on a sketch?
Lois is a professional that the Houston city is blessed to have. She was both kind. She was like part counselor, part sketch artist. I'm in debt to her for helping me to not just think through it, but also kind of just help me work through. She's been through so many of these. She's a true gift to the city. I thank her.
We're going to send the sketch out